Today's adventure brings us to Frankhauser Road in Williamsville. Let's get started. Today's adventure brings us to Williamsville, New York and Frankhauser Road. Let's get started. So, to be perfectly clear, Frankhauser Road itself is not haunted. It's actually a long and winding road, and it's residential. There's a lot of houses on Frankhauser Road, and whether they have stories or not, I don't know. But when doing videos about roads less traveled, we tend to think of the roads as being the haunted location. You know, the hitchhiker ghost, the white ladies, the bride on the road, and various other members of the paranormal cast tend to be associated with haunted roads. In this case, though, Frankhauser Road isn't the haunted road. It just happens to be the road that's mentioned when this particular story comes up. Now, the area of interest when it comes to Frankhauser Road is indeed off of Frankhauser Road. And this video could have just as easily been called the Amherst Synagogue. Now, the Amherst Synagogue is the building directly behind me, or at least it was. It's now known as the Restoration Church. And it itself, when at least it was the Amherst Synagogue, had ghost stories attached to it. Now, seeing that it has been purchased by the Restoration Church, one has to wonder if it actually still has paranormal stories attached to it, or has the power of God, the Spirit of God, actually managed to exorcise the particular ghosts that were associated with the Amherst Synagogue. Now, that's why we're not going to talk a whole lot about the Amherst Synagogue. What we are going to talk about is the area that's adjacent to the synagogue, and we're going to take a little walk over there right now. So we're going to walk to the area where most of the paranormal stories about this, we're just going to call it this neck of the woods. Now, a lot of the stories out here could actually be kind of pretty much folklorish, because I have actually tried to do a lot of research on the claims that are associated with this place before I did the video, so I could actually match fact with fiction. And it seems to me that there's probably a lot more fiction, at least when it comes to the stories themselves, that are linked to this area. So the main part of this whole thing is right through that fence. This is actually where most of the stories about the Amherst Synagogue, Frankhauser Road, actually stem from. And this is where we're going to go in, and we're going to talk a little more about the stories associated with the synagogue. And once again, Frankhauser Road. So let's go in and basically disappear. So you can almost feel how and why there are stories attached to this wooded area and these trails. I see a lot of potential for motorbikes and things like that. Not gonna lie, I do get an isolated feeling when I go back in here. And as you can see, it comes from the trails and it opens up into a clearing. Now, this isn't an actual trail system, so if you do come back here, please be careful. Okay, I'm gonna descend down into this trail system here a little bit. And while I'm down here, kind of out of sight, out of mind, we're gonna talk a little about the haunts and the folklore associated with this area and what I think about it. So a couple of the things here actually kind of stem from, again, the building that was once formerly known as the Amherst Synagogue. So essentially during construction, it is said that a wall collapsed and killed 3 workers, and that their spirits might be some of the spirits that not only at least used to haunt the synagogue, but also kind of found their way out here into this trail system. Well, I tried to do my research on that, and I could barely come up with anything, especially anything saying about workers being killed constructing the Amherst Synagogue. So I'll just take that one with a grain of salt. Now, there is another story associated with this area here that really doesn't have a lot to do with the Amherst Synagogue. At least not really. Of course, that's going to come back to the stories that were told about the synagogue and this area here. I'm going to kind of give you a better look behind me, if I can, of the clearing. So this one, take with a grain of salt. Like most any stories, this could be folklore. Supposedly there was someone that actually murdered a lot of children somewhere between the synagogue and here and buried the bodies in this ground, because another one of the claims of this area is spectral children. So unless that happened way before recorded history, I'm talking 1700s or something like that, or in a house that might have been on the property, I could literally find nothing about it. And a story like that would have definitely made Williamsville history, Amherst Williamsville history, and it would have been something that would have been fairly easily researched. And there certainly would have been in the newspapers about children being found. So I'm going to chalk that one up pretty much, again, to folklore. I really don't think that was a thing. Now, the one that I think actually, the one of 2 things that they said about this neck of the woods was, the one was believable that this undoubtedly was Native American land. So there could have been some kind of battles here, there could have been some kind of Native American activity that could actually leave its imprint on this particular ground. So we're going to leave that one right there, because then that kind of goes into Indian burial grounds and things like that. And again, I don't like to do anything that's not substantiated with some kind of proof. So again, there's undoubtedly Native Americans in this neck of the woods. Could they have had some kind of impact on this particular patch of property? That is something that is, we're going to chalk that up as possible. Now, we're going to now go to one of the claims that's probably the biggest claim to this patch of woods here, and actually gives it its claim to fame. So folks say they come back here at night, which is never really advised anyway, and they run into what either could be described as a spirit or a madman who was either carrying a hatchet or a knife and would actually chase them out of this patch of land. Now, my thoughts on that one, no one has ever been killed by this person or entity. So it's either incredibly slow, or it just has no intent to kill, just to scare people away from this neck of the woods. So, where do I think that sits? Is there some kind of spirit that likes to chase people out of here? I'm not going to lie, when I came back here, I was kind of tentative about it, because what if it's really true that there's a spirit that's going to chase me out of here? Well, the coolest thing of that, part of that, would be to actually get it on film. So we're just going to kind of see if that manifests itself. But what do I think was happening? Did something like this happen at least once or twice, either recently or back in the day, which I'm going to say possibly back in the day, because I haven't heard anything about this recently. So, what do I think? Looking at this area, if you were homeless or a vagrant or somebody who wanted to kind of live in an area like this, in a patch of land like this, I can see where if someone got too close to your tent or your little campsite, you'd want to actually chase them out of here. So at least back in the day, I'm going to say that that is plausible. Do I think it's going to happen to me today? Probably not. And if it does, I will get it on camera. But now, did that person possibly die here and the spirit still defends this particular piece of property? I'm just going to say that is plausible. So I'm spending some time here. I'm not investigating it or anything like that, but I'm definitely shooting it. This is a place that I've always wanted to come to and check out for myself, and that's what I'm doing today. Now, one thing that I am noticing about this area, I'm going to try and see if I can, there we go, see if I can convey this, is I am surrounded by high tension wires. Now, I'm just doing a complete 360 here to give you an idea of exactly how many high tension wires there are in this tract, in this area. So, in the paranormal field, something like this would be called a fear cage. So when you're here and you're amongst this much static electricity, what it does, it can actually give you the feelings of being watched. It can make you edgy, it can make you jumpy, and it can make you nervous, and it can make your hair stand on the end on your arms, all of which are associated with paranormal activity. So I can't rule out when people come here, they don't take that into account, and that could be the explanation for some of the feelings that they're getting, and possibly even trigger a flight or fight reaction. Now, another thing I'm going to point out, if folks come back here with K2 meters, those things are going to be off the charts, I guarantee it. So if you're trying to do K2 and you're out here and you're saying, oh, the K2s are all completely red, well, that's because you're sitting in the middle of a fear cage with like mother loads of static electricity, which would explain actually a whole lot of that. Does it explain the haunts and what happens here? Not 100%, but it has to be taken into consideration. So I want to take a moment to talk about the former Amherst Synagogue. Did some folks actually die because a wall collapsed? I tried to research that again. I couldn't find it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means I couldn't find it. So you can I definitely encourage you to do research on your own to see if you can come up with that information. What about the major claims from the Amherst Synagogue itself? At least what it was, the synagogue. So what was said commonly was that they would see like faces in the windows, children running around there in the middle of the night when nobody was supposed to be in there when the doors were locked. So is that a thing? Again, I've never seen it, but this is also the first time I've been here. These claims might have came from somewhere. Was it overactive imagination? Was it this gigantic fear cage that we're in? I don't know. The synagogue, between the time it was the synagogue and a Restoration church, was definitely abandoned. So seeing faces and spirits in there when folks were out trying to investigate would definitely be a legitimate encounter and a legitimate evidence of the paranormal. I don't think it's ever been caught as far as I know, though. So those are the main claims when it comes to the Amherst Synagogue. So I'm not going to walk up to this building right now and film it and do all that sort of thing, because it's now, again, it's the Restoration Church, it's an active church. So I don't know if there's still activity in there. The only activity that's in there now could indeed be the Holy Spirit. Well, that'll do it. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be informed when new videos drop. And don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. And we will see you next time.